The series opens with a murder, and almost nobody remembers it that way. In Grand Theft Auto 3, before you have done anything at all, you are standing on a bridge beside a woman you trust. The job is done, the money is split, and she turns, shoots you, and leaves you on the wet concrete to die. The game does not pause on it, and the police never come to help you. The morning papers carry nothing. The city simply carries on, and so do you, dragged off to prison, while the story rolls forward as if the bridge never happened. It tells you everything about how these games actually work, not the missions you are handed and thanked for. The things that happen at the edges in the dark, where the camera is not pointed. Across every city Rockstar has built, Liberty City, Vice City, Los Santos, the empty country in between. The worst things are tucked into the places no one is meant to look. A body weighted to the bottom of the sea, a confession folded into 50 scraps of paper, a man who eats people and runs for mayor and walks away clean. And the one person who ever stumbles onto any of it is you, the player, who can see all of it and change none of it. So this is not a list of jump scares. It is a slow walk through what these cities are hiding across 5 games and 20 years. Some of it is urban legend that turned out to be real. Some is real that turned out to be a hoax someone made up. And some is so casually monstrous that the strangest part is how little anyone notices. Put your headphones on and let's go looking. Chapter 1. Rooms you were never meant to walk into. We will start gently with places, empty spaces the game's built and then seem to forget about. Rooms where nothing actually happens, which is exactly the problem one. The shady cabin. Go to the back beyond, the deepest, foggiest stretch of forest in San Andreas, the part of the map where the music thins out and you feel you have wandered somewhere you are not supposed to be. Out there among the trees sits a small wooden cabin. It has no windows, and the only way in is a door that faces nothing but more forest. And at night, it glows. Light leaks out from under the door and the gaps in the boards, as if someone inside has left a lamp burning. So you go in, and there is nothing. No lamp, fire, or fixture of any kind, nothing that could be producing the light you just watched spill out of it. Players have pulled the place apart for years and found no source. The grounded answer is that a leftover lighting value got baked into the cabin during development, a glow meant to stop the interior from rendering as a pure black void, and someone never switched it off. That is almost certainly what happened. But the answer does very little for you at midnight, standing in the fog before a sealed, windowless shack lit from inside by nothing at all. That is the shape of nearly everything here. The explanation arrives, and the dread stays exactly where it was. 2. The ghost cars. Stay in those same woods a while longer, and you will notice something moving. Cars. Wrecked ones, battered and rusted, rolling slowly downhill through the trees with no driver and no engine sound, just drifting, like the forest is exhaling them toward you. For years, people were convinced the place was haunted. There is nothing quite like watching a dead car coast past you in silence in the loneliest corner of the map. The truth is stranger than a ghost. Buried in the game's files are pre-damaged vehicle models, cars that spawn already wrecked, the dents and broken glass built permanently in. A few spawn on slopes, and gravity does the rest. So Rockstar did not leave wrecks lying around by accident. Somebody made cars whose entire purpose is to look like they have already been through something terrible, place them in the loneliest forest in the game, and let physics push them downhill toward whoever wandered out there. They built something to feel haunted. That takes more intent than an accident ever would. 3. The Tunnel Molotov Men. Now go all the way back to the very first game, GTA 3, and down into a tunnel under Portland. 4 men stand around a burning barrel. Background. Set dressing, the kind of figures your eye slides right past. Homeless men warming their hands in the dark, there to make the underpass feel lived in. Except if you kill any one of them, he drops a Molotov cocktail. And so does the next one. And the next. All 4 of them, every single time. That matters, because ordinary civilians in this game drop nothing when they die. Only gang members and scripted enemies are ever deliberately armed. A throwaway group of vagrants around a fire should be unarmed and forgettable, and instead each has been quietly handed a firebomb, every time, with no explanation in the data. And then there is the detail that turns it colder. The walls of Liberty City are plastered with adverts for a fictional horror film called The Tunnel. and its dark underground look maps a little too cleanly onto this exact location. A horror movie on the billboards, a tunnel beneath the city, 4 silent men around a fire, a weapon in every hand, in a spot no mission sends you. Maybe it is buried horror. Maybe it is a gang template reskinned as homeless men and never cleaned up. Rockstar never said, and it is the consistency, the fact that it is the same every time, that stops it from feeling like a glitch. 4. The Frozen Alien. The chapter saves its strangest room for last, and it is one you are not even meant to be able to reach. Grand Theft Auto V opens with a prologue set years earlier, in a snowbound town called Ludendorff. In a frozen northern region, the game locks away for good the moment the real story begins. You are supposed to leave it behind and never return, but players found ways back. And if you glitch your way into that abandoned, out-of-bounds town and walk out onto the frozen river beneath the railway bridge and look down through the ice, there is something looking back. An alien. Gray, thin, big black eyes, frozen solid beneath the surface, staring straight up at you from a place the game spent real effort making sure you would never stand again. The game says nothing about it. It is simply down there, sealed in the ice of a town that no longer exists in the story. Hold on to the picture of that alien under the ice, because the longer we go, the more you will notice this whole series is quietly obsessed with things watching us from just out of reach. Chapter 2. Crime scenes with no criminal. The empty rooms unsettle you because they are empty. The next places are worse because they are full of evidence. 5. Apartment 3C, the Scarface bathroom. Drive to Ocean Beach in Vice City. Find a particular set of external stairs climbing the side of a building and go up. They lead to a small, plain apartment, and the second you step inside, if you have ever seen Scarface, your stomach drops. You are in the chainsaw bathroom, rebuilt close to frame for frame, the tiling, the tub, blood up the walls and pooled on the floor, a chainsaw left where it fell. And that is the entirety of it. The game never sends you here, and not a single character acknowledges the place exists. Take the world at its word and treat Vice City as real. 6. The Carnicero Romero Butchers. A short drive from there, things get worse because this time it is a business. There is a butcher's shop run by a family called the Romeros, and propped in the front window, on open display, is a severed human arm. It is easy to laugh it off as a grim little joke, but the neighborhood does the rest if you treat it as a real connected place. A few doors down sits a funeral home run by the same Romeros. Behind it is a small cemetery with an open grave, and the skeleton in it is missing its left arm. The arm in the butcher's window is a right arm, not the same limb, a matched pair. The family that buries the town's dead is also butchering them a few doors down, harvesting the parts and selling them across the counter beside the pork and the beef. None of it is spelled out. The objects are simply placed there, in the right order, for anyone who slows down to read them. And the name reaches further than one game. The Romeros lend their name to a hearse that turns up again and again across the series, which quietly suggests they are not a one-time gag but an ongoing operation. Keep that supply chain in your head. We are going to meet one of their best customers a little later on. 7. The cement shoes body cross forward into modern Los Santos for the bleakest crime scene of them all, and it is bleak precisely because it is so anonymous. Swim out from the busy Vespucci Beach in GTA 5, down to where a sunken tugboat rests on the seafloor, and lying beside it is the body of a woman. Her feet are set into a block of concrete. The old mob method, cement shoes. She is dressed all in black, her hands tied behind her back, a bag pulled over her head. The current tugs at her so she drifts and sways just slightly, and for a half second she looks alive. She is the final piece of a murder mystery scattered across the map, a trail of clues leading from one sunken hint to this body, pointing deliberately toward organized crime and away from any named character you could confront. Follow the whole thing to its end, and your reward is a set of vintage photo filters for your in-game phone. That is all. Other victims in these games are given names, and letters and grieving families. She is given a method, a bag, and a beach full of sunbathers a short swim away who will never once register that there is a bound, executed woman weighted to the sand beneath them. Chapter 3. The bodies nobody goes looking for. The last chapter was evidence with no investigation. This one is the bodies themselves, lying out in the open, waiting on nothing but you. 8. The Area 69 mass grave. Out in the Bone County desert, near the military base the game calls Area 69, there is a pit dug into the base of a mesa, and inside it, 6 black body bags. Parked beside the pit is an abandoned pickup, angled as if whoever was filling the grave heard something and ran. The bags will not open and give off no heat when shot. 6 dead, a getaway vehicle, and the game offers not one word of context. The obvious reading is the government. Failed experiments from the base, dumped out the back where no one would look. The community took that apart quickly. A black site careful enough to exist out here would never leave 6 labeled corpses in an open pit by its own fence. A real operation makes bodies disappear. It does not bag them and leave them in the sand. So the easy answer collapses, and a far stranger one comes drifting in over the car radio. 9. Mary Beth Maybell and K-Rose. There is a country music station in San Andreas called K-Rose, and its host is a cheerful woman named Mary Beth Maybell. Between songs, in that warm, folksy daytime radio voice, she chats about her astonishing number of dead husbands, joking about how each one somehow met an unfortunate end, the way another host might talk about the weather. 6 body bags, 6 dead husbands. A pickup truck at the scene. A desert just outside of town. Players ran the arithmetic and never let it go. A serial killer radio host, hiding in plain sound, with a private graveyard out in the dunes. Whether Rockstar seeded that across hours of recorded dialogue on purpose, or players assembled a perfect coincidence out of nothing, the studio never confirmed a word of it. But they kept Mary Beth alive in the memory of the series long afterward, and they do not tend to do that for a nobody. 10. Mr. Trenchcoat. The same desert hides one more figure, a unique character found nowhere else. A hermit, in a long trench coat pacing around a remote house, muttering about alien implants and lizard-eyed imposters who have replaced the people around him. Behind the house, where nothing could ever grow, he keeps heavy farm machinery of exactly the kind you would use to turn over soil or to bury something in it. And from time to time, he turns up near that very pit. Everything out in this corner of the map seems to be feeding the same quiet, unspoken story, and the game will never once say it out loud. 11. Catalina's 3 graves. Over in Whetstone, a small cabin belongs to Catalina, the violent, unstable ex of your character. The cabin itself is nothing. What stays with you is what is outside it. 3 unmarked graves and a shovel left in the dirt. The game never tells you who is buried there. It does not need to, because all the way through her story, Catalina talks openly and cheerfully about wanting to kill every man she has ever been with, laughing about it sometimes in the middle of a robbery, like it is the funniest thing in the world. 12. The Infinity Killer. And then there is the deepest one, the body the franchise hid best of all. In GTA 5, a serial killer the press named the Infinity Killer leaves a trail for anyone obsessive enough to follow it. It starts with a nursery rhyme carved into a rock, counting off 8 deaths, with a promise. The bodies will never be found, but he will leave one final clue at the prison he is destined for. Find that prison, and scrawled on a wall inside it is a riddle. Where water meets land and fire once spewed forth, there the infinite 8 shall stay. 8, you slowly realize, is just an infinity symbol stood upright. Lay that symbol over the map, at the peninsula in the far north, near an old spot where fire once came out of the ground and water meets land. And dive. They are there, 8 bodies, each wrapped in plastic, undisturbed on the sea floor around those islands. A man named Merle is locked up for the killings, and the case is officially closed. It is a genuine cipher, the kind of thing that took the whole community working together to crack, and a single player going it alone would swim over that bay 100 times without ever knowing that 8 corpses were floating in the dark beneath them. We will come back, before the end, to the question of whether they actually caught the right man. Chapter 4. The Men Who Got Away with Everything. The horror so far has been mostly silent, a space, a stain, a body in the water. But the darkest thread in these games is not environmental at all. It is the people you watch get away with murder, in plain sight, while the world keeps handing them money and power. This is the part that has stayed with me longest, because it is where the indifference stops being atmosphere and becomes the whole point. 13. Donald Love, the Cannibal Mayor. Donald Love runs through several of these games as a media tycoon, and the more of his timeline you assemble, the worse he gets. You first meet a polished, forgettable version of him in GTA 3, a respectable businessman backing a mayoral campaign and handing you errands. It is only tracing him backward into the earlier games that the picture curdles. By the time of Liberty City Stories, the game stops being coy. You find him sitting at a table, eating human ribs. When your character reacts, Love describes the taste of human flesh as being like chicken, only more sentient, and calmly offers you a piece. And it only gets worse. He throws what he calls morgue parties, fresh corpses delivered for him to eat. A murdered journalist is flown to him on a private plane, and he makes you steal the corpse of his own former mentor, Avery Carrington, the man he once worked beneath in Vice City, so he can literally eat his old boss. And he does all of this while running for mayor of Liberty City, the cannibalism and the campaign side by side, the city none the wiser. The community ties him straight back to the Romero butchers, casting Love as a paying customer of that body-harvesting family. So what finally happens to him? Rockstar gave an answer, and it lands worse than silence. In 2009, they confirmed that Donald Love simply left Liberty City to go and live a normal life. He was never caught. He was never even suspected. A celebrated billionaire who ate his own mentor, who walked out the door and got to start over. 14. The altruist cult. Love is not the only one in these games who eats people and walks free, though the next one needs your help to do it. High in the Chiliad mountain wilderness, past the tree line, there is a fenced camp belonging to a doomsday group called the altruist cult. Old, white-robed believers waiting out the end of the world, certain everyone but them is about to be wiped away. And early in the game, you are handed a way to profit from them. Playing as Trevor, you can find lost, desperate strangers, a runaway, a drifter, people at the lowest moment of their lives, each with a name and a story, and instead of helping them, load them into your truck and deliver them to the altruists for cash. The game never tells you what becomes of the people you hand over. Then you reach 100% completion, go back to the camp one last time, and they turn on you in an ambush. Fighting through, you finally see what the place actually is. Cages, scattered bones, blood, the remains of the strangers you delivered. They were never being saved up on that mountain. They were being eaten. So the cannibals in this series are not only Love and the Romeros, working away in their own corners. One of them ran a quiet drop-off service, and you were the delivery driver, paid by the head, never once asking where the people you dropped off had gone. 15. Leonora Johnson and the Dreyfus Confession, scattered across the entire state of GTA 5, are 50 torn scraps of a letter. It is one of the most tedious collectibles in the game, and most players never bother. But gather all 50 and piece them together, and they assemble into a confession to a murder from decades ago. The victim is Leonora Johnson, a young actress on the rise, who in 1975 was kidnapped, tortured, and killed. Her murderer mutilated and posed her body, scattered her remains, and then tormented her family for years afterward, sending them letters, and on the anniversary of her death, a piece of her. It is built directly on the real Black Dahlia case from 1947, which is to this day genuinely unsolved, and that gives the whole thing a sour real-world undertow. The confession is signed by Peter Dreyfus, a celebrated film director, and the chilling part is the tone. It is not a madman's scrawl. It is calm and self-justifying. He frames the murder as artistic necessity, explaining that he had to kill her slowly because suffering is the price of true greatness. And here is how it resolves. Dreyfus is not dead. In the present day, he is alive, respected, a celebrated genius of Vinewood who got away with the great unsolved murder of the century for 40 years. Collect all 50 scraps and a mission unlocks where Franklin can go and confront him. Drug-addled and rambling, he denies it and admits it in the same breath, and screams that by killing him, you would be killing art itself. And you are given the choice. If you simply gun him down in the street, the world does not react. The reward for solving the whole sprawling mystery is not justice, and it is not closure. It is the option to execute a free man, and to watch the entire city shrug it off. 16. The Ghost of Mount Gordo. This next one might be the most quietly damning thing in any of these games. Climb to the top of Mount Gordo and stand there between 11 at night and midnight, and you will see her. The ghost of a woman hovering above a flat rock, staring at you like she is trying to tell you something. Approach her and she vanishes, leaving a single word behind, written on the stone in blood. Jock. Her name is Jolene Cranley Evans, and in the game's history she died in 1978. According to the in-game newspaper, she and her husband, John Jock Cranley, were out walking near the cliffs when, in the paper's very careful phrasing, a dispute ended in her falling to her death. They had been in trouble. Jock wanted a stuntman career in Los Santos. Jolene wanted to stay and care for her ailing parents. He was released without charge. Her father begged in vain for a real investigation. That euphemism is the game quietly telling you it was no accident, and not a single character ever connects the dots. The man who later runs for governor of the state, and the name his dead wife claws into the rock in blood every midnight, are never once linked. You are the only one who knows. Stand near the base of the mountain in that same window of time, and you can even hear faint whispering and two distinct screams. Jock himself turns up later as a smug game show host, bragging on air about all the women he has had, which many read as the rest of the motive: an affair and the fear of a ruinously expensive divorce. 17. Eddie Lowe. And then there is the one you actually spend time alone with. All through Grand Theft Auto 4, the news half covers an unnamed serial killer the press cannot be bothered to nickname. Someone beheading and mutilating people across Liberty City, mostly joggers and late-night walkers. The coverage leans into satire, the police more interested in a catchy name and a future book deal than in catching anyone. But underneath the comedy, a real monster is at work, and late in the game you can meet him without ever understanding what you have met. His name is Eddie Lowe. Over 2 encounters, Nico gives him a lift across the city, helping him with what turns out to be the disposal of bodies, never realizing he is in a car with the most wanted man in Liberty City. In the moment, it feels ordinary, a creepy stranger with a heavy bag rambling the whole way about the animals he has hurt, about hearing accents in the screams of the people he kills, about dropping the kids off as he heaves his bag into the water. In hindsight, every line is a confession, and he keeps confessing on the in-game internet too, on a profile you can still read, where he writes about murdering his own mother and feeding his victims severed heads to his cat, and mocks the detective for being unable to name him. He is handing over a signed admission, and the city is too distracted to read it. The second time you give him a ride, the night ends with Eddie pulling a knife on Nico, who kills him in self-defense on a dark street, and only afterward do the news reports quietly confirm that the man you twice helped was the killer the whole city had failed to catch. He also names, in passing, a Mrs. Abrahams whose daughter he claims to have killed, which is the seed of a theory that Merle Abrahams, the man locked up for the Infinity murders we found earlier, was a fall guy all along. 4 men and a cult in the hills, a cannibal who ran for mayor, a director who killed for his art, a governor who threw his wife off a cliff, a killer you chauffeured around town, a whole congregation you fed. Not one of them was ever answered for by the world they live in, only by you, if you happen to find them, and always far too late. Chapter 5, The Monsters We Made Ourselves. Now I want to turn the camera around, because not every horror in these games came from Rockstar. Some we built ourselves, out of engine quirks and half-seen shapes, and a few outright lies, and then went looking for the proof. 18. The Suicidal Photographers. In rural San Andreas, you will come across pedestrians who look like ordinary tourists, camera raised, lining up a shot of the scenery. Watch one long enough, and something goes wrong. The photographer starts to walk, toward a road, toward open water, toward the edge of a cliff, and does not stop. Camera still up, they step off something fatal and die, never flinching, while the world carries on as if nothing happened. For years, this was one of the most disturbing things players reported, because it seemed to happen without explanation and without acknowledgement. The truth is quietly more interesting than the legend was. They are not suicidal. They are navigationally blind. The game hands the character a destination, and the character walks in a straight line toward it, and the pathfinding never accounts for the lake or the cliff sitting in between. The drop to the game is invisible. The cold technical version of events is that the NPC could not see the edge. The version you actually witness is a person calmly photographing the view as they march to their death, while not a single soul reacts. 19. The Leviathan, sea monster myth. Players have spent years hunting a sea monster too. Out in the deepest water of GTA 5, divers and submarine pilots kept reporting a vast, dark shape on the sonar. Far too large to be a shark, sliding by at the edge of the draw distance, there and then gone. The legend of a GTA Leviathan, a Loch Ness monster in the Pacific, took on a life of its own, complete with grainy footage and confident eyewitness accounts. Nothing was ever confirmed. The shapes people chased turned out, under every careful look, to be distant whales, the occasional shark, and the limits of the engine drawing the edge of the world. But the hunt itself is the point. Give players an ocean big enough and dark enough, and they will populate it with a monster, whether or not you ever put one there. 20. The Rat Man. The all-time champion of an invented GTA monster is the Rat Man. Deep in the GTA 4 subway, players began reporting a figure. Thin, pale, rat-faced, faster than any normal pedestrian, always slipping away into the dark before you could get close. It became the biggest Rockstar myth hunt since Bigfoot, and players spent months in those tunnels chasing it. Then somebody traced where it came from, one of the great debunks in the series. 2 days before the game even came out, a trusted cheat site published a guide that, alongside genuine codes, told players how to find the Rat Man in the darkest part of the subway. The same article placed that fake directly above another, obviously bogus cheat. One claiming you could make Nico wear a bra by stabbing a cashier at a shop with no female employees at all. The Rat Man did not exist anywhere before that article. The site simply invented him. And the famous photo, the blurry figure used in every Rat Man video for years, traces to a forum. A doctored screenshot of an ordinary pedestrian lured into the subway. The console version of the game could not even take screenshots, which conveniently forced every single sighting to be a blurry photo of a television screen. He was never real. The hunt even grew a backstory that the figure was Darkle, a character cut from GTA 3 before launch, smuggled into the sequel as a ghost, which the hoax never earned but players wanted to be true. And Rockstar, eventually, did answer it. In the storm drains beneath Los Santos in GTA 5, players found a heartbeat that grows louder the deeper you go, footsteps that stop the instant you stop, and at one specific great, faint laughter, sitting in the game's files under the name Hobo Laugh. The strangest part of all is that the legend was never even Rockstar's to begin with. It comes from a real piece of folklore out of Southend-on-Sea in England. The story of a homeless man beaten to death in an underpass, said to return as a rat-faced ghost after rats devoured his face. A player carried that folklore into GTA 4, we turned it into a phenomenon, and Rockstar handed our own ghost story back to us in the sequel. 21. Pigsy. The same instinct explains Pigsy, and this one starts outside of GTA entirely. In 2003, Rockstar released Manhunt, a brutal stealth horror game whose single most disturbing enemy is Pigsy, a grotesque, obese man who crawls around a slaughterhouse in the dark, wearing a severed pig's head and swinging a chainsaw. San Andreas came out the next year, and players found Pigsy's face texture painted on a wall out in the Bacco Beyond. A shop in the game even sells a Pigsy action figure. So Rockstar referenced him deliberately, more than once, and the community spent years convinced he roamed those woods, hunting players who wandered too far. He does not. There is no Pigsy creature anywhere in San Andreas. But you can understand exactly why we needed there to be one. Rockstar dangled the face of a confirmed monster on a wall in the emptiest part of the map and let our imaginations build the rest. 22. Sasquatch Bigfoot. Because Rockstar has a habit of this, of taking the things we invent and quietly making them real. Bigfoot was an enormous, completely false San Andreas rumor. The studio even stated outright that there was nothing out there. So when GTA 5 came around, they did exactly what they always do, and they built a genuine Sasquatch into the game. You reach him through peyote plants scattered across the wilderness, which let you hallucinate and eventually play as the creatures. There is a whole quest line. You hunt a Sasquatch who turns out to be a sad man in a suit, and later it folds into a hunt between a Sasquatch and a beast. A decade of players swearing they saw something that was never there, answered by a studio that decided the most honest response was to go ahead and make it exist. 23. The by-the-book torture scene. And sometimes the monster is not one we imagined, or one the city is hiding. Sometimes it is the thing the game places directly into your own hands. There is a mission in GTA 5 called By the Book, where, as Trevor, on behalf of a government agency, you torture a bound and terrified man for information. The game will not let you look away, and will not let you skip it. You choose the tools: pliers for his teeth, a wrench, electrocution, waterboarding, and you carry each one out, personally, on a man who is begging, and who is already telling you everything he knows. The point the scene builds toward is bleak, entirely on purpose. Afterward, the character himself says out loud that the torture produced nothing useful at all, that it exists only to make the person doing it feel powerful. It is the most uncomfortable scene in any of these games precisely because there is no fan theory to untangle and no hidden object to go and find. It is just you, holding the pliers, because the game asked you to. The other monsters in this chapter, we dreamed up. This one, we became. Chapter 6, Hidden in Plain Sight. The last set are the secrets the games placed right in front of you and then refused to explain. The grudges, the buried jokes, and one quiet wink sent from one game to the next. 24. The Statue of Happiness Heart. On Happiness Island in Liberty City stands a colossal statue, unmistakably the Statue of Liberty, here renamed the Statue of Happiness. Reaching its secret is a small feat. Land a helicopter on top, find the one door that opens, beside a sign reading "No hidden content this way," which longtime players know is Rockstar's way of announcing the opposite, and climb a ladder up inside the hollow body, and at the top, in the dark, hangs one of the most infamous Easter eggs in the series, a massive chained beating human heart. Shoot it and it bleeds. You cannot destroy it. There is nothing to explain it, not a mission, not a line of dialogue, not even a label. For years it sat somewhere between creepy and meaningless until you learn the reason behind it, which is one of the great acts of Rockstar pettiness. The statue's face is not generic, it is modeled on Hillary Clinton, and that is pointed. During the San Andreas era, when hot coffee erupted, the then senator became one of the loudest voices pushing for a federal investigation into Rockstar, an episode that cost the company enormously. So the statue is revenge rendered in stone. A steaming coffee cup where the torch should be, a jab at the mob that caused the trouble, a plaque rewritten into a sour verse about America luring immigrants in with promises it won't keep, and a mocking companion website in Rockstar's own voice. The heart is the punchline. A person cast as cold stone, with a living heart chained in the dark inside. A monument to heartlessness. 25. The hot coffee scandal. That scandal deserves its own moment because it is the clearest case of a secret the developers tried to bury, dug back up by us, with consequences far beyond the game itself. Buried in the San Andreas code was a fully built but locked-off sexual minigame. Rockstar had developed it, then, under pressure over the game's rating, disabled it before release. The crucial detail is that they did not fully remove it. Pulling it out so late risked breaking the surrounding code. So they simply hid it in the files and assumed nobody would ever reach it. On PC, a modder did. Released to the public as the Hot Coffee mod, named after the game's own euphemism for going home together. It set off a chain reaction nobody was ready for. The game was re-rated adults only, which is commercial death. Stores pulled it, Australia banned it. Lawsuits piled up alongside a federal investigation into whether Rockstar had misled the ratings board by hiding the content rather than removing it. The losses ran to nearly $50 million. Rockstar's own president was questioned for the better part of a day over a minigame most players never knew was there. And the company's first instinct, blaming hackers for content that was entirely its own, was condemned at the time and later admitted to have been the wrong call. The double standard was lost on no one. A teenager could buy a game built around shooting people, but a clothed optional sex scene was the line. A few lines of code that were never meant to see daylight nearly took the whole company down with them. 26. The Epsilon Program. One more secret hides in plain sight, and it is a cult of a very different flavor. The Epsilon Program is a religion you can genuinely join in GTA 5, a glassy, smiling parody of the celebrity self-help cults of Los Angeles. Led by a serene huckster named Chris Formage. Playing as Michael, you can sign up, and the game walks you through the whole thing with a completely straight face. Surveys full of insane questions, a uniform you are instructed to wear for days on end, long, aimless walks across the desert to prove your devotion, and then the donations begin, and keep climbing, into the tens of thousands of dollars, all of it vanishing into the pockets of a man who promises enlightenment and delivers robes and errands. It is played for laughs, and it is very funny, right up until you notice how precisely it captures the real machinery of a cult. The absurd tasks, the escalating payments, the unshakable certainty. the leader growing richer while the faithful walk in circles in the sand. 27. The 100% UFOs, remember the alien frozen under the ice, all the way back at the start? It was not alone. Reach 100% completion in GTA 5 and the sky quietly changes. UFOs appear, hanging over the military base at Fort Zancudo, over the desert town of Sandy Shores during a storm, over the peak of Mount Chiliad itself. They were never there during the story. They only show up once you have done everything there is to do. As if the game is repaying total devotion with the creeping sense that something has been watching the whole time. There is even one hovering silently above the altruist cult's camp, which does nothing at all to make that place feel any better. For years, players treated these UFOs as the final secret, the thing the famous mural up on the mountain had been pointing them toward all along. And they were right that it was pointing somewhere. They just had the meaning backwards, which is exactly where all of this ends. 28. The Lost Hatch and Roman's Morse Code. I will close the chapter on something lighter, because not every buried secret is grim. Some of them are just lonely. Dive down to the seafloor in GTA 5 and you will find a hatch with a round window and a light glowing through it. To anyone who watched television in the 2000s, the reference lands instantly. It is the hatch from Lost. That alone would be a fun little wink, but the light inside it pulses in a rhythm. Record those pulses, translate them, and the message that comes out is unmistakably from Roman Bellic, Nico's cousin from GTA 4. A paraphrase of his endlessly repeated invitation to go bowling, the line every GTA 4 player remembers him calling about over and over again. So at the bottom of the ocean, in one game, a light is blinking out the most worn-out catchphrase from the last one, as if Roman is down there in the dark, still signaling from a universe the series has long since moved on from. It is the friendliest thing in this entire video, and somehow, it is also one of the loneliest. Conclusion. The eye at the top of the mountain, 29, the Mount Chiliad mural. I want to end where the obsession peaked. At the very top of Mount Chiliad, inside the cable car station, there is a hand-drawn mural that became the most argued-over puzzle in the history of these games. An eye at the top, a jetpack, a cracked egg, a UFO, all connected by lines pointing out toward locations around the map. For over a decade, people treated it as a master key to the game's deepest secrets, and pieces of it genuinely paid off. The sunken UFO, the alien content tied to full completion. The most convincing modern reading is that it is far simpler than a decade of theorizing assumed. The jetpack means fly up high. The egg is your own progress from 0 to 100%. The line from egg to eye is the journey, and the eye at the top is the Chiliad UFO, marked with an FIB logo. The punchline being that the aliens were the government the entire time. The mural a quiet little note about power, watching the powerless. And that, in the end, is the thread running underneath everything we just walked through. Look back over it. A cabin lit by nothing. An alien in the ice. A butcher selling the people the family next door is busy burying. 6 bags in a pit and a cheerful voice on the radio. A confession nobody reads. A ghost spelling out her killer's name. A killer you gave a lift to. A cult on the mountain you fed. A heart chained in the dark out of spite. A man begging while you reach for the pliers. A friend blinking out a message from a game that ended years ago. Different cities, different decades. The same shape every time. The horror was never the supernatural part. The glow, the ghost, the rat in the tunnel. Half of those had plain explanations, or were things we made up ourselves. The horror is the indifference around them. All of it sitting in the open, in cities full of people and no one paying attention. Except you. That is the strange bargain these games make with you. Every other open world promises that your attention will be rewarded. Look hard enough and the world responds. The secret means something. These games offer the opposite. What you get for looking is knowledge you cannot do anything with. You learn that the celebrated director is a murderer, and the city goes right on celebrating him. You find the 8 bodies, and they stay exactly where they are. You decode the light at the bottom of the ocean, and all it wanted was to go bowling, in a world that does not exist anymore. You cannot arrest Dreyfus. You cannot free the man rotting in a cell for the Infinity murders. You cannot lean over on the subway and tell anyone that the quiet man 2 seats down is the killer in every headline. Every bit of reach the game hands you stops. Every single time, at the exact edge of the things that would actually be worth changing. So you climb the mountain. You hit 100%. You solve the murders, find the bodies, decode the lights, and put a bullet in the men who got away with it. And nothing changes. The city does not thank you, or notice, or slow down. You are the only witness in a world built so that witnessing accomplishes nothing. You see everything. You are powerless over all of it. You never become the eye at the top of the mountain, because in every city Rockstar has ever built, you were never the one watching from above. You were the one walking through it, alone, finding the things that nobody else ever will. And then, like always, the game just keeps going.